Welcome to Star Wars Timeline. My name is Ben. Today we're reviewing the 8th episode of the Ewoks show, The Land of the Gupins. As always, this is a full spoiler-on review. If you guys don't want to find out what happens in this episode, go watch it first, come back, and drop your comments in the video section below. Let me know how you enjoyed it. And as always, I really appreciate your support, guys. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, hit that bell button, and may the Force be with you. Let's jump right into it. We begin in the forest of the Ewoks. Paplu joins our friends Wicket, Teebo, and Nisa, and he watches them playing around with some odd-looking big monster creature. He's suddenly scared, he doesn't know what it is, and he charges in to try to save his friends because he's afraid of this creature. Turns out it's no other than the Gupin that we've met in the episode 4 called Mring. He's a friend, he's a good guy, and as we have learned earlier, Gupins are these creatures who have this special power of transformation. Now, it's something that they can't do on their own. They need the power of belief from their friends or from people, creatures that surround them. That's very important and crucial to this particular episode. I really enjoyed it in the previous episode. I like these new creatures. I enjoyed what they're capable of, and it really worked very well for that first episode where we encounter this odd-looking creature. For his next trick, Mring turns into this odd-looking giant bird. But he suddenly deflates because he can't seem to control his power. Also, another fact which is going to be pretty important for judging this episode's story. And he quickly deflates and he's like, shh, he starts flying around the forest over the canopies of the trees. And he crashes deep into the forest into this giant spider nest. Of course, our friends run in to try to help him. The rest of them get tangled in the web. And of course, Wicket and Nisa come to the rescue. They try to pull on the strings on this web, and they shoot our friends off into a completely different part of the forest once again. I thought it was pretty funny gimmick and pretty exciting and interesting. It sets off the premise of the episode pretty quickly, that it's going to involve our friend that Ewoks have befriended, and there's going to be some kind of a trouble. Obviously, it begins with something a little bit innocent and naive. They're just jumping around trying to get their bearings, but it turns into a larger conflict, which I really liked how this episode was set up. Mring here reunites with his brother Ubel, and now Ubel is another one of those creatures that we encounter. Now we understand that there's a whole tribe of them. In episode 4, I had a sense that he may be the last or the only of his kind, which was maybe was a one-off kind of episode where we see him once and never again. Now we see his brother. And we find out that he was also entangled in that web. So it was almost fortunate that Ewoks got tangled in that spider web, and they were able to release both brothers at the same time. Obviously, they weren't privy to the fact before, but that's what happens. And now Ubel tells his story. He said, look, that his flying is failing. Apparently, these creatures have wings because they have some capacity to wish something. It's wings, they appear on and off. It's something that the power they have over themselves, but for some reason that power is failing them, and that's why he flew into the nest. That's why he got captured. But Mring tells his brother, he says, look, I don't think I can ever come back to the village. My wings are not working. There must be something wrong with him. He's very self-conscious about it, and he feels like an outcast, and he doesn't think that he will ever be able to come back. But Ubel urges him, so look, you got to come back with me. Something is happening with our village. And he describes us of this formal ceremony that's supposed to take place annually or as a part of some celebration. It takes regularly, whether it's every year and so forth. It's called the renewal ceremony. And what they have to do is open this juniper chest, which provides the source of all life for these creatures. And it's also the source of their powers. Right there on a spot, this story in this episode captivated me. It's once again classical mythological tropes that we see in folklores around the world. We see it from medieval tales. We see it in folk tales of 18th and 19th century, the Brothers Grimm, Hans Christian Andersen, and so forth. It's a very, very familiar idea, and I think it's the most effective way to tell children that there is parts of life that we're all supposed to center around and celebrate, and it's very important to be a part of that ceremony, to feel that you belong somewhere. So that was a important and interesting lesson there that we're about to learn in this episode. So I really like that part a lot. He says that, look, we have more problems than just that part because we have these grass trackers, these giant violent beings who have attacked our fortress. And our king, King Punt, he wasn't very good at his job. He apparently gave away the one and only key which is supposed to unlock this chest. So there is our premise of the story. This is the episode. They gotta get the key. And it feels like their entire lifestyle and their very lives are in danger, the source of their powers. So Ubel convinces his brother to come back. By the way, Ubel looks to me like he's the older brother. He's a little bit bigger and taller. So to me, he seemed like an older brother urging his younger one, saying, look, come over, I need your help. And at this point in the story, Ringring is not convinced. He's like, I don't know if I'll be able to help, but of course, I'll come with you. Again, this is very, very important to show us a transformation of character. Ringring begins in one place in the story, and by the end of the episode, he becomes something entirely different, which is a testament to good storytelling. And of course, we got to go through this whole journey to take us there. And one of the most important things that Ubel also mentions is that there is a prophecy. There is a chosen Gupin that is said that he can open the chest without the key even, and then he will be destined to be our hero and lead us into the future. Now, does that sound familiar? That's right. The story of Anakin Skywalker and the Skywalker family, right? The chosen one, setting the balance in the Force or in life or in this galaxy. Same is happening here on a smaller scale, the matters that involve these creatures of Endor, but to them it's vital. To them it's important. It's their universe. And once again, we see ideas of George Lucas, whether he was directly involved with the show or not. We see these ideas being repeated over and over again, a concept in which George Lucas believed. He said, when you reiterate concept and ideas, it becomes this larger story that everybody can relate to. So to me, there was instantly signaled, oh yeah, okay, I'm watching a Star Wars show, 100%. Here's the story of Destiny and the Chosen Ones. Of course, we can't leave without Ewoks, right? It's an Ewoks show. They got to be crucial somehow. They got to help. And being that the nice guys that they are, they offer Ringring and his brother their help. They said, look, we want to come too. At one point, you helped us. Now we got to return the favor. But they can't leave without consulting their chief, right? And Chief Logray give them advice, and they give them these canoes on which the Ewoks start traveling to their destination. During their journey, Paplu gets these delusions of grandeur. He makes us, the audience, questions like, hey, are the Gupins the only ones who could be kings? Maybe if I try to open the chest, everybody remembers the tale of King Arthur and the sword? He says, maybe if I try to unlock the chest, maybe I could be the king. In a way, in that specific moment, I don't know why, but Paplu almost felt like an antagonist, because my senses are telling me like, no, it's the Gupins. One of them is supposed to be the king. It's their chest. It's their ritual. It's them. And he's trying to take that away. What is happening here? You're supposed to be the good guy. But of course, that kind of like serious tone is quickly interrupted when his oar is left behind and he's forced to jump in the river, grab his oar, and travel back to canoe. That was and everybody's laughing. Everybody's having a good time. I thought it was pretty funny and cool moment to relieve a little bit of stress in this episode and tell us that everything will be fine. No, Ewoks are the good guys 100% here. So as they're traveling on this waterfall, of course we get the waterfall, right? They're traveling in the river, and there is this waterfall. Of course, we got to get an obstacle, and we are once again reminded that Gupins are able to help their friends by transforming. With the power of belief that all our friends have in this stressful situation, the Gupins transform into these blankets, and they help the canoes parachute down to the valley. Now we're in the next segment of our adventure, and we're introduced to the land of the Endorian grasslands. I absolutely loved it, guys. This was my favorite part of the episode. It shows us flora and fauna. It shows us different little insectoid creatures flying around. And we're witnessing this new race who are supposed to be the bad guys, or at least the antagonists in this episode. We see this giant herd of giant grass trackers. And they looks to me like concept designs created by Ralph McQuarrie. Now, he probably is not involved with them at all, but that's what it looks like. If you guys look at the paintings of Endor that Ralph McQuarrie has painted, these giant pointy-eared creatures. Visually, these grass trackers look that they are within the same visual language, the same style, which I found pretty interesting. It kind of grounded the episode, but then later in this episode, I'm taking out of the experience a little bit, but not because of these creatures. These creatures were on point. The whole visual style of the valley was very nice. I appreciated it a lot. And we see something really cool is happening. As a herd of these giant creatures is running around, and they seem to be very agitated and violent, Tebow comes to aid once again. And he starts using, which we have seen in the previous episode, which I'm going to call his force powers. Guys, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I haven't seen this show at all, but I'm predicting that Tebow has some kind of force abilities. Because he starts chanting, he starts using his Ewok version of whatever this is, and he's able to call these mound creatures called the Macans, or Macans, whatever they're called. He calls them up, friends hop on, and they start traveling to their next destination, which is on one side of the valley, they see the Gupin stronghold. On the other side of the valley, they see the Grass Tracker's shrine. That's where our key is located. That's where our friends need to go next. And of course, they all make plans of how to proceed and how to handle the situation. Ring Ring, Wicket, and Nisa, they travel to warn the rest of the Gupins. They travel to the fortress to warn them of what is happening, and they all gotta get prepared for this attack because the trackers are coming. Paplu, Tebow, and Ubel go to retrieve the key. Tebow's plan is as follows. He's like, look, we're gonna dress up one of these mound creatures, we're gonna put some grass over it, and we're gonna make it look like one of those grass trackers. Kind of makes sense. I'm like, okay, that's pretty interesting. And they have to retrieve the key, which is sitting there in the center. Now, as our Ewok friends are traveling to the fortress, and we're meeting the whole village of the Gupins, this is where I was taken out of the experience. Mind you guys, the story here is good. I liked it. I enjoyed this episode. I liked the characters. I like what happens with them. I like the way that the conflict was set up. But in terms of what we're experiencing, didn't feel a lot like Endor or like I'm watching Star Wars. It felt like another beautiful Saturday morning cartoon. I'm just enjoying it. I'm having fun with the story, but I couldn't help but feel consciously like, oh, okay, the scales are tipped a little bit. If the valley really felt like Star Warsy to me in terms of visual style, the village did not. That took me out of the experience just a little bit. But anyway, Paplu starts serving as a diversion. He says, look, I'm the oldest one, I have the strongest legs, I'm gonna start running around, create a diversion, you guys go grab the key. And Grass Trackers give chase. And Paplu is just booking it, man. If you guys thought that Ewoks are kind of, these chubby little bears, and they're very kind of like stuffy and clumsy, and they're not gonna run fast, well, we're proven wrong here, because Paplu is giving the chase of his life. He's like just running around, and these grass trackers are after him. I really enjoyed it a lot. It was a pretty fun scene. At the Gupin stronghold, the ceremony begins to take place, and we're kind of, as viewers, we're alerted that like, hey, things need to happen now. We're in the final stage of the ceremony, and our friends need to come through and attain the key and bring it back the last moment, because otherwise things are going to go terribly wrong. The friends return. Tebow gives the key to King Punt. And as King Punt tries to open it, he's stuck with the keys there, clearly telling us that he's not the chosen one. Somebody else has got to pick up that key and try again. And now the grass trackers, they completely break through the gates, they smash it open, and they start toppling the trees and toppling the village huts, and things begin to get very dire for our Ewok friends and the Gupins as well. To compound the issue, something even more terrible happens, which, as an adult, as somebody who understands storytelling and key points, which the episode is trying to illustrate to you, I knew that sooner or later something terrible is going to happen with this key. And lo and behold, it completely shatters and breaks. So now somebody must step in. That whole prophecy of the chosen one, that there will be a Gupin that will step in and save the day, it needs to manifest now. Whoever wrote this episode, obviously it's written in a language that is very digestible for children. It's in the format that uses easy words and easy concepts, but it has all the foundation and bells of whistle of strong storytelling. And I really, really like that a lot because we had the setup in the beginning of the episode. There was a lot of tension happening here, especially where the grasskeepers break the doors and they rush into the village. There's very, very tense stuff happening there. And now the final moment of truth. The key breaks. Something needs to happen. And of course, Mrimrin, he picks up the key. He says, maybe I should try. He's urged by his friends, and friends tell him, look, you got to believe in yourself. Once again, very important lessons. And he believes. He puts his arm inside and he unlocks the chest. And as the chest is unlocked, suddenly all of the Gupin powers are unlocked, and they're all transformed into these very intimidating creatures, which I thought was very cool. I did not predict for that because I didn't put the 2 and 2 together, thinking that if that chest stores of their powers, how is that going to manifest at the end of the episode? What kind of weapons can the Gupins prepare in case things get really, really bad and they're completely taken over by their enemy? I didn't think that far in the episode. I was just enjoying the ride and watching along. And when that final transformation really happened, I was like, whoa, this is really cool. I'm enjoying it a lot. Of course, Gupins prevail. They win. They chase all the bad guys all away from their village. And we get the sense that everything will be restored and all the huts will be rebuilt and everything will be nice and fine. The friends prevail. Ring is crowned. He proves himself. Of course, his friends help him along the way. Our Ewoks there were integral to his victory. But because he had that faith in his friends and into himself, he becomes the next king. But because it's a kids show and it looked like they didn't want to go too hard on the former King Punt, they kind of bring him into the fold too. And Ring says, look, for what you have done for our tribe in the past, you will be given the 3rd spot. I'm assuming Ubel is going to get the number 2 spot as the older brother, and the King Punt is going to get the 3rd place, but they still feel that he's important. They still say thank you in a way, and they don't punish him for what he has done. That was very cool to kind of show us as, you know, as children viewers that sometimes you have to forgive and sometimes you have to embrace your friends. And even when they make mistakes, you have to bring them into the fold and say, look, you're still one of us and we respect you and we value you. So it was very cool and very interesting. And at the end, of course, we have the callback to Return of the Jedi, which ended with the musical numbers in the Ewok village where they're all dancing with the rebels, and we see Luke, Leia, Han, and Lando Calrissian. Same is happening here, and they're dancing. But this time around, for some reason, the Ewoks are the ones who feel a little bit strange, right? Because Luke, he's like dancing with the little Gupins. He's like, oh, okay, too much dancing, too much music. So they kind of flipped that scene on its head and make it a little bit interesting and different from what we saw in the movie. So guys, all in all, what did I think of this episode? I think we're back on track. I think it was very strong in terms of story. I really, really enjoyed the Endorian plains. That was just, the grasslands were so cool, the creatures were so nice, and I really enjoyed all the story and all the trials and tribulations that Mrimrin and his brother and his tribe had to go through. My only tiny nitpick is that last third of the episode where we're in the fortress, it didn't feel a lot like Star Wars. It felt like just an interesting show with a cool and compelling story, but just didn't feel a lot like Star Wars. So for that reason, I'm going to score this episode and give it 3.5 out of 4, which is still pretty good. It's just I had to bring it down just a notch because that one little thing, but it didn't make me enjoy the episode any less. I still liked it a lot. I still enjoyed all the animation, all the artwork, all the visuals were there. And the most important part of any episode that I watch is, does the story work for what the show is doing? Now, it's my personal bias that, you know, I feel that it's kind of moves away from what Star Wars is, but that's just my personal opinion. I think all in all, it still managed to tell a story that is compelling and strong, and I really appreciate that. So this is my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave your comments in the video section below. Let me know what you thought of this episode. I'm particularly interested, what did you guys think of the Gupin Fortress? Were there any among you who felt like myself that it kind of took you out of the whole Ewok / Star Wars experience, or you didn't mind it and you just enjoyed and appreciate the story for what it is? maybe a little bit different, but still fun and enjoyable. I look forward to your comments. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. As always, I really appreciate all of your support, your kind words, and watching my videos, and I'll see you guys next time.